your story. Is Tony Blair retiring to spend even more time with his dictators? Tell us about this.
Well, yeah, I read an article, I can't remember where it was, but I got it through Flipboard, and it's discussing what Tony Blair is doing now. And we've discussed it over some of the previous shows about the old boy network, how people look after each other in the upper hierarchy of society. And I'm just interested to see what he's actually doing now. I've had some information from GB, and GB discussed this before in the past. So I just wanted to say to the panel what he's actually doing now. So there's a chap who's writing a book about him. I think his name is Nick Cohen, and it's called Blair Inc., The Man Behind the Mask.
Yeah.
So it's saying more about Blair Incorporation as opposed to Blair the man himself, and it's telling about his powers now that he's got as a prime minister still around the world without the true legitimacy of them powers. And it says the public part of Mr. Blair's post-PM activity was his work as a representative of the Quartet of countries, which is Russia, the United States, the European Union, and the United Nations. So basically it means the whole world. Let's be honest, part of Australasia is not really in there, but I'm sure that falls in the UN as well, doesn't it? They gave him the responsibility for directing international investment into the Palestinian territories. Now, we've discussed this as well, but how he's got links with the Israeli presidency, etc. like that. So he's also brought into his team the old boy network that we discussed before, Alistair Campbell and Jonathan Powell. And he's also increased his wealth dramatically. He used to have one house, I think, before, and then he invested in one property in London called 29 Norton Square, which is under full protection by the police service. It's an estimated worth of 8.3 million. I know this guy's a prime minister. Do you know what the prime minister's salary is?
Not 8 point something million.
No,
not a clue.
It's usually about the 100,000 territory, around there. Usually about 40,000 above what MPs earn. So you're thinking to yourself, how's this man affording an £8.3 million property? But that's not where it ends. Since he's left as being a prime minister, he's had a further 36 properties, which is, the wealth is tens and tens of millions. In fact, they can't even discover a lot of it because it gets blocked under the Freedom of Information Act, data protection, because of what the position he was in before. Now, this is what the chap who's wrote this book has said. The conclusion of the years of the investigation that can be found in Blair Inc. is that Blair has prostituted his legacy to the pursuit of mammon, which is the personification, is a deity, the personification of greed, money, and accumulation of wealth. It's been they look at him as totally distasteful, and political friends alike are left out of the cold with disgust.
You know, the problem you've got with Tony Blair is that people see him, most people see him as a politician, and I understand all that. What you've got to do is see him before he became Prime Minister. Then you realise that, has he, become like a whore when it comes to his gift? Okay, well, imagine what he was like before. 1993, he and two of his friends are invited onto a boat that's organised by an organisation called the Bilderberg Group. They invite him to join, and his mates, and they all join. Within a few months, the leader of the Labour Party dies of a heart attack, John Smith.
Yeah.
He becomes Prime Minister. His other friend becomes Deputy. The other friend becomes a guy that they call the Architect. Like I said before, the only title you hear, the only person you hear with the title Architect ordinarily is in Freemasonry. It's the top belief system. So they don't call their deity a god, they call him the Architect. Then as you get a little bit higher up, you realise to yourself the Architect is in fact Lucifer. Okay, another story. So he goes through the ranks, becomes Prime Minister, becomes big in the world, gets involved in the war in Iraq and gets the nation to back it, even though 1 million people protested. Now remember, Jeremy Clarkson is about to lose his job in the BBC, and over 1 million people, wrote a petition. That's a massive number. What about 1 million people all congregating in one place and saying no to the war? That's an even bigger number. Yeah. Biggest protest this country's ever seen. They still went to war. Soon after that, he steps down and says, I still believe I was right. Then he gets this appointment to see the Pope. Now, what does he do to get this appointment? Well, he stops being a Protestant and becomes a Catholic. The first Prime Minister in British history to stop being a Protestant and become a Catholic. Never done before. Now, people have to ask themselves the question, why did he do that? Well, he did it because the Pope is not allowed to get into the world's affairs because of a treaty that he signed with the world going back decades. So he needs somebody that can act as his spy in the world. So Tony Blair becomes the Catholic emissary to the Pope. So then he goes and works with these organisations called the Quartet. Now, only a few months ago, we all thought that the Russians and Americans weren't getting on. Yet Tony Blair works for an organisation that both of these organisational nations are his paymaster. So this is not a man that's actually, as it were, dashed away his Labour principles or his socialist principles. He dashed that away from the start. Yeah. He's always done whatever it takes to get himself to where he is now. So he's no longer just a prime minister or an ex-prime minister. He's bigger than that. I would think to myself, in this so-called 7-year period, if something kicks off, he will be somewhere at the very top in terms of dictating, etc., etc. Because he's a statesman, but he's not a man who's considering and is interested in people. He's only interested in the estate of his own money and his own. He should be arrested.
What do you think his end game is?
Well, what you've got to ask yourself is, the people who set the world up the way that they're setting it up, what is their end game? And their end game is to bring the world's population down to a more of a manageable number. That's why they give us food that kill us, or they give us medication that kill us. None of these things make us better. You don't eat a breakfast cereal to be better. If you wanted to be better, you'd get the sugar out of the breakfast cereal and then give it to your kids. So, and then you wouldn't give your kids dried up fruits in the cereal. You give them fresh fruits, because the dried up thing is of no value, no use. It's cardboard with taste. So his end game, because remember, it's all about which side has he aligned himself to, and the side that he's aligned himself to is the darkness. This is not a man that cares about people, or this is not a man that actually wants to stop wars. Money is made in wars, so he is part of the organisation that likes to have wars. He's into that.
And that's what's sad, Sorry, but that's what's sad is the fact that he's been given a role, to help negotiate the peace in Palestine. That's like if two people was fighting at school, getting the school bully to come and stop them.
Yes.
Innit?
Yes.
It's ridiculous. Why would you not get somebody, first of all, from that land?
Yes.
100%. First of all.
Yes.
Who is giving him the green light to do this? And if he's been given a role of such importance, why are you still going and getting money rather than doing this role? And what is his end game with the money? How much money does he need? I have to quote Bob Marley that said, money is numbers and numbers go on forever. So how much do you need for you to be happy?
That's right.
How much do you need? What's his limit?
He's on a salary as well with the JP Morgan bank.
Yeah.
He's on $2 million a year.
Yeah.
Just to give them minimal advice.
However, he's only a human being. And 9 out of 10 human beings, given the opportunities that's been presented to him, would probably say, you know what, I'm going to take that. Because let's look at the original Tony Blair. He probably did come with the agenda to help the people in his constituency, blah, 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 blah. The unfortunate thing about this earth that we live in is that money just clouds everybody's judgment.
100%.
What scares me about politics is I could come in now with £10 million and I could say, my name is Chevalier, I'm going to donate to your party. And you say, come in, Chevalier, you're not going to ask me where that money's come from.
Yes, don't care.
Money cancels out everything.
That's right.
I could have been a drug dealer, I could have robbed, killed, stole for that money. You don't care, you're going to accept my money and you're going to big me up as one of the new people supporting the party. And that's where this problem is I have with money. People can't forget money's man-made. Money's man-made at the end of the day.
That's
and
right.
are men perfect?
Not yet.
No. And it's 100% true. I think the problem we've got is we trust them too much. We believe they care. And we have to remember, when there's a war breaking out, they send us. Is it a coincidence that Harry is about to leave the army in June? You know, because he must have. I think war's about to break out. I need a civilian job. You know what I mean? McDonald's are hiring. You know, he needs to actually find
Have
something.
they given him a new job yet?
McDonald's?
No, McDonald's.
Do you want fries with that, sir, ma'am? You know, he's in discussions at the moment in time. He's not sure what he's going to do. He knows what he's going to do. You don't leave something to not know what you're going to do next. If you are a member of the royal family, I'm not sure. Is he fourth in line to the throne? He don't need to do nothing. All he has to do is show pictures of his mum to people. I think they call it currency. You know what I'm saying? So I show people my mum's picture. They go, she's lovely. I see she's got your eyes, or you've got her eyes. That's £17.50. Done. But so for him, he can show pictures of his mum, and it's currency. It's a get out of jail kind of card. So I'm not anti-royal, not in the slightest. I think to myself, they serve a purpose. I'm not anti-politicians because I believe they serve a purpose. But if we think to ourselves that they put us first in what they're doing, well, I don't know what we smoke. But whatever it is, it's messing up our head.
The sad thing is, sorry, Dawn, but whatever Tony Blair's doing now, he's going to pass the baton to David Cameron.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to carry out on for another 10 years.
Yeah.
And you have to look at it and think, democracy, well, everybody voted that guy in.
Yes.
The guy we're talking about now was voted in democratically in this country. And that's supposed to be the right way. I had an interview the other day and I said, for me, again, like you said, democracy is a myth.
Yes.
Because you're not listening to the voice of the people. You're not.
100%.
A million people was on the street. I've turned on MTV, I've seen Tony Blair on MTV.
What?
Talking about this is why we need to go to war. Let's be honest, he'd already made the decision.
Of course.
He's already made it. The decisions over the next 10 years have already been made. They've been made. All this is like watching EastEnders.
That's right.
It's theatre playing out in front of us. And I'm not stupid. I know what it is. You know? I know what it is. And people aren't stupid either. The problem is when you underestimate the people.
That's right.
That's the problem.
If the people turn up and said, you know what, time, they're done. Sorry, sis.
Great points. Thanks, Chef. Thanks, G. Thanks,